that we're going to be able to discuss all the questions and everything that you have because we're going to continue to dive into what everyone has said today. What an incredible and powerful panel we've had. And I know, Coach Theo Clay, you're coming on because you're about to introduce our next incredible, I mean, I was with you guys in Virginia Beach and I was able to spend some time and his beautiful wife was with us. And the man is just a powerhouse. So, Coach Theo, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brother Seafood. This next gentleman, speaking number four, you all, I always say it, I have to say it because I just don't know of any other way, but he's from my hometown, man. We grew up together as little young fellas, just skipping over the railroad tracks and going and fishing and having mini battles on the basketball court, to sitting in church together, you name it, school together. It's near and dear. And I'm just so happy my brother is here. Just like Renee said, he puts his show up action where his mouth action really is. And he is seen. And I love this gentleman. And without further ado, our brother Stephen Miller, man. He's an author, Guinness Book World Record holder. He's spitting it out every day. Just type his name in Google. It'll show up somewhere in form or fashion, and you'll be able to see the amazing things my brother's doing. He's a outstanding entrepreneur and founder of W23. And what is W23, Dr. Fred? W23 is where two or three gather in the midst of the Lord. We know God is in the midst, and He's here right now. He also has Where You Worship, who brings together faith, identity, purpose, leadership, and legacy. Please welcome to the virtual stage my brother, Stephen Miller.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tio. Shout out to everybody that's went thus far. You know, you guys have done an amazing job. I want to take you on a little journey real quick. So I served in the military a long time ago, and I was a combat medic in the Army. And one of the requirements that we had quite often was to go on road marches, right? And road marches was a very strenuous walk. Um, but sometimes it was approximately 12 miles, and it was tough. You know, you had to put on your rucksack, which is a large backpack that contained all of your gear. You had your weapon, you had your water canteen. So you carried a lot of things. And my specific role as a combat medic, I had some additional weight. I had to carry that medical bag too, which contained, you know, and everything from bandages, syringes, and I had to be there for the soldiers in case somebody got injured, somebody got ill. So I had a lot of responsibility during that time. During those road marches, it gets tough, like I said. You know, you're walking through rough terrain, you're walking potentially during rain, weather or extreme hot conditions, and it really gets tough at times. You start out strong, you start out motivated, but then the miles start to add up over time. Now you got that same rucksack on, but it just feels heavier once you start getting to that halfway mark. And that's the same thing with leadership, right? You get motivated when you get the new role, the new title. You're happy when you achieve those goals, accomplish those metrics, those key performance indicators. Everything is going right. But then suddenly there's a shift. You got to start making tough decisions. You got to have those closed door conversations. You got to worry about your team and the things that they're dealing with. You may have to let somebody go at times. You may end up impacting families. So that's the weight that leaders carry sometimes. But one thing I want to remind you about is going back to that rucksack, I mean, the road march, excuse me. You had a platoon. You were surrounded by other people. We were all heading in the same destination. We all carried weight. We all carried something different, but we were doing it together. You were never alone. I understand that everybody carries something, right? But you have to watch each other's back. And sometimes in leadership, we get lost in that. We feel like we got to be in isolation. We feel like we got to have all the answers to everything. And I just stopped by here to tell you, don't get caught up in the trap. You don't have to carry everything alone. You don't have to hide the struggle that you have. It's okay to ask for help. Isolation is definitely not the way. There's strength in that. There's strength in raising your hand and saying, I need help. I don't have all the answers. There's strength in being able to say, please help me. So I want to leave y'all with this as we get into this dynamic discussion. I want to ask you two questions. What's in your leadership rucksack? What are those things that you're carrying that nobody may see? And I also want to ask you, who's in your platoon? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Who's in your circle that's got your back that's going to help you get to that destination? Thank you.
It's awesome, brother. I can first and foremost say, Stephen, that man, that rucksack can get real extremely heavy. I know
Yeah.
Amy knows it. Some of the other veterans, ooh, seafood master in kung fu, probably flying out there to China and walking the Great Wall with a heavy pack on his back just because that's his style. He pushes himself. But man, open dialogue, open discussion, Steve. Like, what was in your spirit to bring forth this phenomenal, aspect of what you just gave us? What was in your spirit to bring forth your message today?
Yeah, so obviously, God told me to go back to your journey, Stephen, and what were some of those things that you went through that was extremely tough? And I wanted to have a tangible example that I've literally experienced and possibly others as well. You know, that road march, man, it's long. You know what I mean? It feels like there's no end in sight sometimes. And life can be the same way. So can leadership, where each and every day you got those long sleepless nights, right? You got those long drive homes where you had a rough day, uh, or you got to go into work and it's a long drive into work where you got to make those tough decisions on that day. So I just wanted to bring something that hopefully somebody could resonate with and relate to.
Go ahead, Renee.
I loved the message so much. It spoke to me because so much of my leadership journey, I felt like there was a defect in me if I had to ask for help. And you packed it so nicely of making sure that you're surrounding people with the right people. And so in your work, how do you rewire people's thinking? Because there's a lot of people who didn't have the experience of and the benefit of going in the military, of understanding the power of your platoon, the power of that circle. So how do you rewire people who may not know that and think that isolation is where I need to build?
Yeah, so based on my experience, I lead a pretty large team currently, and after assessing some of the leaders that I was responsible for, I began to become transparent at times, right? So, like during staff meetings, things like that, once your leaders start to see you open up and letting them know that you're not okay today or you're struggling with something, it allows them to kind of follow that lead as well, and that's what's worked out very, very well for me.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Stephen, thanks for that. I really align with it only because I think it'll make you giggle. Every Saturday, we get with a group called Carry the Weight, and we throw rocks around. And but it's built a community, much like you're saying your platoon. Um, and we share things with one another, and we support one another outside of that group. So yes, you can do it in a company, but you can do it outside as well. But it's about doing hard things, right? As you're suggesting, building that community and sharing.
Thank you.
Doing the hard things. Mike, you're up.
Stephen, thanks for your presentation. I wanted to ask you, in my observations of corporate America over the decades, there were some some leaders that were very powerful and then led great teams. And the common thread, their mentality was that nobody fails on the team. And when we see movies about the military and people that have been in the military, by the way, thank you all for serving, all on the call that are served. Thank you. And so is that, how do you deal with that mentality? Is that your mentality for your teams that nobody fails? And or
No,
do we have a jaded opinion of that when we see platoon leaders yelling at, screaming at people that they need to do better? How do you handle that?
yeah. So for me, obviously, I've got high expectations because the customer, they've got requirements, right? My leadership may have requirements. So I do have high expectations, but failure is part of it, right? I think once you do fail, what's the lesson from it? Let's dive into that root cause and come up with some good corrective actions so that we don't make that same mistake again. Let's put those preventative measures in place so that we don't have those same errors again. So that's always my approach to it, having that quality continuous improvement mindset.
Thank you. Great. Great.
Diane.
So my question is more around how do you help people to open up and it's not even open up. How do you help them find the support they need? So many of my leaders I work with talk about how lonely it is. They don't feel like people that they're around can connect with them. They don't feel like they belong in the groups that a lot of people. So how do you help them find that sense of community of people that can understand what it's like to be in their position?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the platoon, right? Who do you surround yourself with? Find those people that you can trust. Find those people who are willing to challenge you along the way. Someone you don't have to necessarily perform around. I think that's the key to ensuring that happens.
And it's true, Diane. Many of us on this cause, we all know it can be lonely at quote, as some would call the top. And in that same vein of what Stephen is talking about in terms of leadership, if you've ever been to California, particularly Southern California, anyone, it's a lot of hills and big mountains out there. So for us East Coast guys going out to the West Coast and putting that heavy sack on our back and going up these hills and mountains, oh man, you talking about you'll know who you really are. Especially when you're going 26 miles, 30 miles with a rifle, those type things. Um, but there's a saying, if you're leading and you get all the way up to the top and you turn around and no one's behind you, who did you really lead? So what I hear what Stephen is saying is at quote the top, because I don't like saying that. But whatever food chain you're in, if you're up in that higher echelon, I would say a lot of times, of course, as we know on this beautiful day, it could be very lonely if you're isolating yourself, if you're being fake, if you're being, I'm just going to rely on my education and not people skills, or I can't be real enough to say my faults. And I think, like Steven said, those trusted individuals, sometimes it may be the youngest person in the room because they're the most rabbit ears per se that want to learn and do the right thing. So uh that authenticity piece plays a huge role in that. Brother Lancelot, where you at?
Appreciate you, man. Stephen and Diane asked kind of the question I wanted to ask, but I wanted to you be a little more specific in terms of for those leaders and those people out here that are feeling lonely at the top or feeling like the people, their family and their friends don't understand what it is to be a leader. What's something that you can do specifically to find the environment where you can find other leaders that you can learn from? Because it's all about proximity is power. But it's one thing to say, find your group, but what's a tangible thing that somebody's listening today could do to find other leaders? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I would say rooms like this, I mean, look at the dynamic leaders on
Yeah.
this call, I know at one point during my journey, I felt like I was alone, and I had to start surrounding myself with like-minded people. And you'll be able to navigate through that and figure out who it is. When you know what your identity and your purpose is, and let's say it's leadership, right, in some form of fashion, you're gonna know at some point that I'm not getting any value from the folks that I'm currently surrounding myself with. I gotta
Mhm.
detach myself and find those other folks that are speaking the same language as I am, that may have the same spiritual relationship that I have, or the same values, the things that I connect to, the things that I believe in. That's what I would say.
Yes, yes. That's a great bit of information because I think a lot of people are surrounded. I know for myself, back in the day, you can feel you're different. You can see that these
Yeah,
people are not aligned with what you're thinking and what you want to be like. But how do you get past that? And sometimes
that's
you
right.
got to search out communities like what you said, like this community right here today, this summit. Look for other summits. Look for people and places and things that are thinking in the same direction that you are.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, that's
Thank
powerful,
you.
bro. People, places, and things is powerful. Thank you, brother Lancelot.
Yeah.
Sifu Raphael, you're up.
Well, two things I want to do. One is I want to say that you made me think of something really deep. Uh, when you say I need help, it doesn't mean you're weak.
Oh,
Asking
no.
for help is not weakness. Asking for help is sometimes you may be overwhelmed, and it's those people that you know that can actually help you. And if you don't speak up, they're not mind readers. They don't know. So that's what I got from it. But thank you so much. And I also want to read Dr. Fred's comment here. It's one thing, this is Dr. Fred's, it's one thing to tell others to ask for help when they need it. It's totally another thing to ask for help or announce that you are in need of another or yourself. So, would you mind touching upon those two?
Yeah, so could you repeat the first one again? I'm sorry.
Mine is that asking for help does not mean you're weak.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so for sure, that's strength. That's the greatest strength you can have. Anytime that you walk around feeling like you got it all figured out, that's where you're gonna start tripping up, right? Nobody is above anybody else. It's okay to ask for help. That is the greatest strength that you can have. There was once upon a time where I kind of felt like that I had to have it all together. When you sit in that leadership role at times, you're sometimes forced, or whether it's on your own doing, feeling like you got to have it all together, and it's just not true. It's the furthest thing from the truth. The greatest thing you can do is recognize that you don't have to have it all together and figured out.
Deficiencies. So